A look at the Democrats trying to beat Trump at the ballot box as a new frontrunner emerges in Iowa.
If there are 4 more years of this president, we will not recognize our United States of America. We must win.
If the Iowa caucuses were held today, South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg would come out on top, with support from a quarter of the state's Democrats, according to a new poll from CNN and the Des Moines Register. His surge pushed progressive Senator Elizabeth Warren out of the frontrunner spot, ahead of former VP Joe Biden and Senator Bernie Sanders, who all still lead the field nationally, but trail Buttigieg in the state with 16% and 15% respectively. But will the good news for Buttigieg extend beyond Iowa's borders? Joining me now to discuss are LaTosha Brown, she's political organizer, co-founder of Black Voters Matter Fund, and a fellow at Harvard's Kennedy School's Institute of Politics. Good to see you again.
Good to be here.
Steven Grossman, former state treasurer, and as I mentioned at the top of the show, former national chair of the Democratic National Committee. He is supporting Buttigieg in 2020. Steve, good to see you. Starting with you, here's a poll. Buttigieg is up in 2 months, 16 points. In Iowa, Warren is down 6. How do you explain the surge? How do you explain the drop?
I think Pete comes across to people as down-to-earth, common sense. I think people are looking for somebody who can bring some arguments to the table and who can lead and inspire in a way that can get things done. And I think Pete comes across to people as somebody who's down-to-earth, common sense, humble, likable.
Why is Warren dropping in Iowa?
I think it's more that Pete is surging, and I think more as people start to make, and again, people aren't making all their decisions yet. There are a lot of moving around.
But that's a big jump in 2 months. Do you buy this? You're not in agreement, yeah?
No, I agree. I think that part of what we're seeing is, I'm not so sure if Warren is dropping as much as is responding to the surge. I think that he is a candidate that's coming from behind, and there's a lot of energy. We saw that with other candidates, that as they start building their campaign, I think that there's a lot of energy that he's bringing. You
don't think she took a hit on the Medicare for All, get rid of private insurance thing? Because she delayed on Friday, she delayed the kick-in date for ending private insurance, which most observers assume was because she was losing ground over the issue.
I certainly think so. I think that hurt her, and particularly when we're looking at Iowa, because it's an early. We're looking at Iowa because it's an early caucus. However, when I talk to people in the other states, and we're working in 11 states, she's actually gaining momentum in places like Georgia and other places. So I think that poll, looking at Iowa, may or may not necessarily be reflective of.
Let's stay on Buttigieg if we just can for a couple of minutes. Much of the conventional wisdom, probably not his, but much of the conventional wisdom, we'll get them in a minute, is that this is an Iowa phenomenon, that he doesn't have strength outside, particularly in the next couple of states, New Hampshire, South Carolina. Do you buy it, or does an Iowa victory, assuming it happens, propel you to places you might not otherwise have been asked in?
I think Iowa is certainly a game changer in terms of it sets a particular kind of tone, but I don't think that Iowa is reflective of the rest of the country. I think even the demographics in Iowa alone is not reflective to some of the other primaries.
Well, it's reflective of a lot of New Hampshire.
Of a lot of New Hampshire,
white,
absolutely,
highly educated,
absolutely.
Which is part of his key base. But it still has to come through Georgia
and South Carolina and other states. So I just think that it's early on for us to say that Iowa is indicative that what he's going to do in the rest of the nation, because that's not what I'm hearing or seeing on the ground.
I agree with you that Pete's surge coincided with the most recent debate where he had a superb performance and he said, look, there's a clear difference. I'm for Medicare for all those who want it. There are 140 million people who have private insurance. I'm not going to take it away from them. That is a defining issue. But in addition to that, I think what Iowa and the surge in New Hampshire gives him is an opportunity. To become better known to people. He still has a challenge in front of him, and that is that a significant percentage of the Democratic Party primary voters are people of color, and he has to begin to build a relationship with those voters. The Douglas plan that he offered is one way to do it, but he's going to have to do it in very personal terms. I think this gives him a chance to build those relationships.
But, Jim Clyburn, who is, I think, the highest-ranking African-American in Congress, I was sort of stunned when in an interview a couple of weeks ago was candid enough to say, particularly older black voters are not crazy about the fact that this is an openly gay candidate to be the Democratic nominee. He's registering almost at zero amongst black voters in South Carolina. His overall numbers in South Carolina have doubled from 4% to 8%. But how does he crack through with black voters? Can he crack through with black voters?
You know, and I think even when you're talking about Congressman Clyburn and the older generation, I certainly think that you're in the Bible Belt, so that's certainly a factor, right? But younger voters, younger black voters, are actually looking for something different. They're looking for a dynamism that I actually think candidates like Warren, part of the reason why she's been surging in Georgia and some other places is because I think that there are women, there are groups of women I have been in conversation with who are really excited about her candidacy and some of the pieces that she's raising. I think the issues, we make this be a one-issue race. This is not going to be a one-issue race. You know, and I think that we look at black voters as only being concerned about one particular issue. I don't think that will be the case.
Can we talk about a guy who did fairly well in Iowa, speaking of Iowa, Barack Obama.
That's right.
So Barack Obama is in a conversation with former Georgia gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams at an event of Democratic donors in D.C. This is what he said. And he stayed pretty much out of this race and pretty much out of everything of late. This is still a country that is less revolutionary than it's interested in improvement, than it is interested in improvement. They like seeing things improve, but the average American doesn't think we have to completely tear down the system and remake it. I think it's important for us not to lose sight of that sort of incremental change we can believe in. I mean, he didn't mention any names, but he clearly has taken a hit at Sanders and Warren. Do you buy this? What he's selling here?
Well, this is kind of like people are saying this is the battle for the soul of the Democratic Party. I think it's more about what the country wants and what the country... Pete Buttigieg said the other day, and I think it's very revealing, he said, look, if I'm elected president, I will be the most progressive president in our lifetime. Pete is a highly progressive guy. He doesn't necessarily come across as a revolutionary the way other candidates do, but it's change that people can believe in is exactly what, and that's what Barack Obama was saying. Be careful, Democrats, that you don't nominate somebody.
Do you buy what Obama was saying?
Yeah, I think I buy the fact that elections are generally won by appealing to independent voters in the center. If you want Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and some of the other battleground states where Trump actually does better in polls than many of the other Democratic candidates, you've got to appeal to people and do something that offers a change that actually can be done with a split Congress and a split Senate, because the Senate is unlikely, unfortunately, to go Democrat.
Was Obama on?
I actually disagree with him. You know,
with
it's
Obama,
interesting. I absolutely
Why?
disagree with him. One, you know, it's interesting because I think what was interesting about Obama's old campaign is he was asking us to believe in something that we had not seen. At the time, it was quite radical for there to be an African-American that would be elected as president, particularly against Hillary Clinton, which was part of the established Democratic piece. So I think that even in him, in the election of him, there was a segment of the population, young people in particular, who were looking for something different, who were not the traditional voters, that came out in major numbers. I think one of our mistakes to make is that we get caught up in that we need the centrist voter when we've got the largest group of voters right now are actually young people. And young people are not necessarily polling high when it comes to centrist issues. So I think we've got to look at this.
Particularly those young people who are voting in Democratic primaries.
Absolutely.
Can we bring up one more person who, Deval Patrick announced last week. He was on a radio show the day he announced. Here's a little bit of an exchange about his conversation with Barack Obama. Here it is.
I have spoken with President Obama.
I'm sure you told President Obama, just like Joe Biden did, I don't want your endorsement. You told him that, right?
Of course. I mean, no, seriously. No, seriously. His role right now is to be the senior statesman in the party. And, I need to earn, yes, his endorsement, but more to the point, voters' endorsement.
You know, I asked Governor Patrick if he had been urged to run by Barack Obama, obviously, who is his friend. He said no, he had not, even though they'd had a conversation. Then after I hear Barack Obama's comment to Stacey Abrams, I become even more convinced that Barack Obama urged his moderate/liberal friend to run. Do you think I'm on to something?
I don't have any insight on that.
Nor do I. I don't either.
You know, what I do know, that Deval Patrick is a person of integrity, and I see him as such. So I can't say what my own beliefs are around that. Because I don't know if I don't know if that's the case. I do know that I think that there's an opening, and I know we hear it over and over again, that there's this space, there's this fear within the party that we need a candidate that can actually activate the centrists. What I think is missing in that discussion is that we need a candidate that can hold the base and also be able to bring this new generation of voters into the party. Which is how
Deval Patrick describes himself, by the way, someone who can bridge that quickly.
And I would put it slightly differently, but honestly, I think we're in sync. There are 92 million voters on Election Day next year between the ages of 18 and 37. The Democrat who can inspire those younger voters is going to be the next president of the United States. I think Pete can be that It's not clear who's going to do it, but Pete certainly is showing those qualities, and that's one of the reasons I'm so proud of him.
Steve, it's nice to see you.
Thank
Thanks
you,
so much
Jim.
for your time, LaTosha.
Thanks.
Great to see you, too.
Great to be here.
Thanks so much.